Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here, coming at you from the Knife Center, and welcome to our favorite time of the week. We're taking a look at the coolest knives that have just hit our shelves, of course. So, let's get into it. All right, first up this week is a knife that was actually released as available earlier today. The new Tanto versions of the Benchmade Claymore. And the whole ethos with the Claymore series was trying to combine the strength of a true tactical knife and the strength of Benchmade's push-button automatic mechanism with as light a weight as they could pull off without sacrificing said strength. And that's what you've got here. You've got a knife, it's not a featherweight, but it's less than 4 ounces, 3.87, so about 0.1 less than an ounce or thereabouts. But with that, you've got a 3.7 or 3.6 inch blade and a very strong feeling automatic mechanism. Like, it works great. You've got a secondary safety there that'll work in the open or the closed position, so you're not gonna accidentally hit that button inadvertently when it is open, and you're not gonna fire the blade open when it's closed, at least when that switch is engaged in the forward position. But when it's ready to fire, you got plenty of texturing on that button. Real easy to find it and fire it. The blade is CPM D2, so it's not your basic, budget-minded D2 steel. The CPM process here means it's a powder-metalled version of it, and hence, edge retention should be about the same, but the toughness is what's the word?
Tougher.
Exponentially, maybe not exponential, is many orders of magnitude higher. It's way tougher than your standard D2, we'll put it that way. So less chippy, less likely to snap in an adverse situation. And let's be honest, if it's a true tactical situation, then it is an adverse situation. Now the steel still is a semi-stainless, so that also means semi-not stainless, so you do have the coating here, not just for aesthetics and to keep reflections down, but also that will help with the corrosion resistance a little bit too. As far as the grind, it may be a little bit hard to see because of the kind of almost speckled quality of the coating here, but we've got about, let's say, a saber height flat grind along the rearward straight section, flat grind at the tip as well, and then a flat swedge most of the length of the spine too. So we'll try to get some good reflections on that, but it is a little bit hard to see. Handles, you got two options, Ranger green grivery or black. Both of them feel the same, as you would expect. If there's one thing to kind of sum up all of this, I should say reversible deep carry pocket clip too. The Seth V, my occasional co-host here, who should be appearing here shortly on a video next week actually.
Spoilers.
Spoiler alert. Likened this to something like a slimmed down, higher speed, lower drag version of something like the Gerber 06 Auto. And as a fan of the 06 Auto, I own one and enjoy one. It's a pretty good thing right there. Interesting observation. I like it. But this is not the 06 Auto. This is the Claymore. The Tanto is available now. If you don't like that, you've also got the mini Tanto, or the mini drop point version, and the standard drop point version also available. Next up, we have the 2023 annual Boker Slipjoint. This is the annual Damast Slipjoint, $352 for this one. Did I mention the price on the Benchmade?
I don't know.
$234 on the Benchmades, I should say. But this Boker is $352 right here. You have an Odin's Eye Damast steel blade with that nice sheep's foot profile. I'd say modified sheep's foot, actually. There's a little piece of hair on there. Looks great. The profile is going to be a great little working thing too. The handles are a little more basic, less fancy, gray G10 blue liners. Has a pretty distinctive look though, I would say. As for the walk and talk, yeah, that feels really good. Very, very good indeed. Should be mentioned, this is a Solingen-made, German-made in Solingen knife, not an import, although here in America it would be an import. I understand how silly that statement sounded as soon as I said it, so don't worry about it. You know what I'm talking about. Serialized, this one is number 24, and great collectible, obviously. They kind of intend these to be collectibles, but let's say, for instance, you wanted to use this knife rather than just put it up on a shelf. it's got a really cool handle. I like the shape back here. It's got one of my kind of favorite things to do on a smaller knife, and that's this kick up here at the tail section that coincides with one's pinky finger, or with my pinky finger anyway. It's a great way to manipulate the blade, and it's a great way to still maintain a pretty full feeling grip. I mean, this is a 4-finger grip for me, while not having a just kind of chopped off tail. You've actually got something cool going on aesthetically. And then of course the blade is gonna work great too. Excellent shape, full flat grind, swedge, very, very nice. All right, speaking of fancy things, I almost feel like I have to put gloves on for this one. $3,500 for this next knife.
Fancy indeed.
Yes, indeed. How many of your trucks does that equal?
2 and change.
2 and change. That's cool. So it is a prototype. It is a Marfione custom Amphibian with the RAM-LOK. Now, Microtech or Marfione aficionados may remember that the Amphibian is kind of an old model that's been resurrected here, and I think they used to be available manual and automatic versions back in the day. This is a manual version. It's not an auto, but it's really, really cool. Just about a 4-inch blade, recurved drop points, actually double-edged. I literally just noticed that secondary sharpened edge up here. Looks like it comes back to about there, where you have actual edge apex that's sharp. Mirror polished on both, however, which makes Thomas's job a lot harder, unfortunately.
Fun.
Big carbon fiber handle, plenty of real estate for heavy grips right there. Great push-off point for your thumb, for keeping that blade pointed where you want it to be pointed. And then you've got a folded over pocket clip, which is reversible, which is great because the lock itself is also usable from both sides. And the thumb studs are too, although I don't really want to put my thumb out there on the thumb studs because I don't want to get a fingerprint on the mirror polished section of blade right now. It's pretty sweet. The back spacer here looks like it might be cast aluminum. I'm not sure, actually. I don't even know if we have listed on the thing here. Oh, it is a bronze titanium back spacer, actually. But it's got some really cool texture going on and really good color to boot. Actually, here from the spine shot is a good way to kind of look at the RAM-LOK, because I give a lot of knife makers and companies a little bit of a stick, at least internally, sometimes externally too, for coming up with their own names for the crossbar lock. We have too many of them. Just call it a crossbar lock. And that was my initial reaction to this too, but I was wrong about that. This is actually a little bit different, even though in operation, it feels and acts kind of just like a crossbar lock. Instead of a crossbar, you actually have this big metal piece that then interfaces with the tang of the knife here from the back. You can actually kind of see it from this angle. And then rather than omega springs, one on either side of the handle, you've actually got a simple coiled spring here, or spiral spring. It's not a coil spring. That is a coil spring.
Might be a coil.
Ugh. Sometimes my brain can't catch up with my mouth sometimes. Coil spring here at the back, pushing it forward, kind of similar to Spyderco's ball bearing lock, the way they use a coil spring in that fashion. So as you can see from these differences here, this is not a crossbar lock, even though it's going to give you all the great vibes and operation of a nicely tuned crossbar lock. Love it very, very much. You can get this, of course, as well in the MSI and the manual stitch. Those are kind of trickling out and trickling in here and flying right off the shelves, so keep an eagle eye out for those on our site. But man, this is just something special right here. And of course, being a one-off, very collectible into the future too, especially for the Microtech folks out there. All right, next up, keeping the carbon fiber type of thing going here. New drop tomorrow, actually. This is the Friday after this video posts. A new Jack Wolf slip joint. This is the Feel Good Jack. And if astute slip joint fans out there will notice that the Feel Good name is rather cleverly chosen, because there's very clearly some doctor's knife inspiration in the shape and pattern of both this handle and blade right here. Jack Wolf has always been really nice about being real clever with their names in regarding, or kind of alluding to the patterns of that particular model. It's pretty cool, and I enjoy the wordplay going on there. Very, very nice. Price on all of these, there are going to be several different carbon fiber versions. I'm not sure if there's any micarta versions in this particular batch, but I believe they're all about the $300 mark. But check the website tomorrow. We'll put the exact time that they're supposed to go up here in the corner. I don't remember what it is off the top of my head as we're filming right here. What you get, 3-inch blade, S90V blade steel. So for a slip joint, the performance is off the charts. I mean, S90V is a great, fantastic edge holding steel no matter what type of knife it's on. But in the slip joint genre in general, when most often you're dealing with kind of quote unquote lower grades of steel more often, to have S90V on tap is a game changer for sure. But as for the blade, it's 3 inches long, if I didn't mention that, of that steel. Excellent sheep's foot style going on, not modified. You've got a completely straight edge going on, full height hollow grind, and very, very thin behind the edge, as is always the case with these Jack Wolves. As for the handle, we've got titanium with integral bolsters, and I had to pick this one to show in the video because I love the name, Limoncello Camo Carbon Scales, made in the USA. Very, very cool indeed. The knife itself is not made in the USA, but the camo carbon is a material that is US sourced, I should say. Really, really nice. Shall we venture around the walk and talk? Ooh. Yeah, they are spot on, as is typical of a Jack Wolf. The other thing you'll notice differing it or setting it apart from traditional slip joints, even though it is very traditionally inspired, is the Torx construction around the pivot as opposed to pins, which is always pretty cool to see. What more can I say? I do have one thing, actually. The packaging is always really cool. Each release of theirs has a custom tube with custom illustrations on it. Lots of goodies inside. You've got a cleaning rag, you've got some stickers, you've got a pocket slip, you've even got this little cardboard disc. If you know what that is, then you know what that is. You've got that as well. Same kind of graphics that appear on the aluminum tube. And then all this comes in a box too. So you've got packaging on packaging on packaging, so to speak. Very, very nice indeed. Next up, speaking of Doctor's Knife inspirations, we have a new version of the, I almost said Quaken, the CRKT CEO Compact, which in my mind, of course, is a blend between a Quaken and a Doctor's Knife. If you know, you know. You've got the same squared off back here at the end, which in a traditional Doctor's Knife roll, where a pharmacist might be using this to crush pills into powder to dilute them in a solution or what have you, you've got that here as well. And with the CEO, you've got a deep carry pocket clip mounted to that back piece, and it is reversible too, which is nice. The blade itself, going to the front of the knife, 2.6 inches, 4116 stainless, nice acute profile. The handles are injection molded, now available in this black as opposed to the kind of metallic blue color that was previously available. You've got that nice fine texture on there. Not like the original CEO, but it's got like that kind of dimpled texture going on, almost like an orange peel, or even almost like a wood grain type of thing in some respects. Really nice. We've got IKBS bearings in the pivot here. Flipper tab, of course, being a CEO and in the CEO family, you're not going to see any of the blade except for that flipper tab when it is closed, and yet it flips open quite nicely indeed. It's really nicely executed, and I've said before, I'm really a big fan of the blue of the original, or the original compact version, I should say. The black one here has a bit of a classier vibe in some ways going on, a bit more tuxedo-like, even though you don't have any white accents. You have plenty of shiny metal. It's really cool. That's it. It's really cool. And yes, I'm setting it down on the table upside down because the clip here is making it want to jump one way or the other, and I don't like that. So we're going to let it slide. Next up, you may have seen last week our Civivi Conspirator exclusive with S35 and aluminum handles for about 110 bucks. We've actually, at the same time we got that, we've started to see a lot more affordably priced aluminum handled knives hit the market, both from Civivi with new versions of the Altus and the new Cubit knife, and now from Kizer and Sencut as well. Sencut, of course, is a sister brand to Civivi, but let's check some of those out now. First, new versions of the Original XL from Kizer, and yes, original is the name of the knife XL is not the name of the knife. You've got the original and the original XL. I like this knife a lot. I kind of hate the name, unfortunately. Sorry, Kizer, I gotta say it. But as far as the knife goes, it is excellent. $92 for this. You've got a 3.25, so 3¼ inch blade, 154 cm. Fantastic little drop point shape with a practically full flat grind and a stone-washed finish. It has, like, all of the check marks that I look for are checked. I love that. The handles are aluminum with no liners here. You've got just enough mounting hardware here around the pivot and the lock to support those mechanisms, but the rest of the handle is linerless and it is drilled or milled out on the inside. So you've got pocketed aluminum. And as such, despite a fairly robust handle in terms of its girth, like not chunky, but not chunky at the same time, 2.8 ounces for the weight on this bad boy. That is very little weight for the feel you get in the hand in terms of real estate and purchase on the handle. Really it has the feel in the hand of something that could work bigger than its size would suggest, and yet it feels lighter than its size would suggest. In some ways, I actually see this as a great budget alternative to the aluminum handled Benchmade bug out, which is about 2.5 ounces, a tiny bit lighter, but also not nearly as hand-filling as this original XL is. And even though you don't have a crossbar lock on this original XL, you do have a button lock, which is also finger safe, like a crossbar lock, and fidget friendly, and even though it's right-hand biased, is very usable with the left hand as well. And unfortunately, the pocket clip is not reversible for the lefties, but it is, however, pocketed with flush mount or flush head screws on there, so it is superb in terms of its execution on the side that it is installed on at the very least. Very, very nice. $92 for this knife. That is very, very nice indeed. Should I stop saying the word nice? I'm saying the word nice a lot today.
It's a nice word.
It is a pretty nice word, I will say. The next Kizer with aluminum handles is a Sebastian Irwan design. This is the Kobold 2.0. 109 for this. 3.6 inch blade, CPM 4V blade steel. Really cool to see that, as always, on some of their knives. Great toughness and good edge retention as well. Not stainless, keep that in mind. But you do have a black stone-washed finish, which is essentially a forced patina that is then tumbled. So you do have a little bit of aid there in the corrosion resistance because of that, but it's not the same as like a pure coating, so keep that in mind too. In terms of the weight, this is a little bit bigger, and it is a little more even bit heavier. It's just under 5 ounces here, because we do have, even though some milling on the outside to reduce weight and some pockets milled in on the inside, we still have some steel liners here that are skeletonized, yes, but the aggregate of all of those changes means you are dealing with something that feels about as heavy as it should given its size, as opposed to this, which feels less heavy than it should, in a good way, I should say. But the Kobold 2.0 has that nice meaty grip as well, maybe even more so than the original XL. This, for my hands anyway, fits exceptionally nicely. You have a deep carry pocket clip, not inset, but you do have flush head screws right there, but it's pretty low profile even so. I don't see that being too much of a problem snag-wise. As far as the action, we have a liner lock, so you've got a detent in there holding the blade closed, and this is a front flipper slash thumb slash blade cutout opener. Let's see me embarrass myself on a front flipper this week. I gotta do it at least once every week. Oh man, this feels wrong. Okay, I can't flick it, but I can slow roll it actually pretty nicely on the slow roll. I have no problems with that whatsoever. As far as the reverse flick, gotta try that out. Yep, works great. And your thumb open is gonna work great too. As far as the blade profile, very utilitarian. It's got a big utility knife type of vibe, to me at least. Really good, breaking down large swaths of material. You've got a high flat grind. You're not too thick here, which is great because you're gonna get slicing efficiency. And with the 4V, you're not giving up extra toughness. Like if you're looking for something for those big jobs and you want that toughness, you might be tempted to look for a thicker blade. This is an alternative there. You've got the toughness you need to withstand bigger jobs like that, but you still have slicing geometry, which is pretty cool indeed. This also has a little bit of drop to the handle there, or to the blade edge below the handle there, which means working on a surface could be good. Might not be the first thing I reach to for food prep if I'm using a folder for food prep. You can pull it off in a pinch though. But any kind of surface scoring work, carpet, this could be a great thing for something like that, where you're cutting on top of a surface. This type of arrangement is going to give you some advantages over some other types of blade shapes and handle arrangements. Pretty cool. And then for detail work, one more little detail. Didn't mean to do that. If I planned that out better, there'd have been a better word in there. But you do have a notch out towards the tip of this, we'll call it a modified sheep's foot blade, which means pinching up on the blade and using your index finger there for some detail work feels great. Next up from Sencut, we have a very affordable aluminum handled knife that, like the original XL, feels light for its size in a very good way. $46.75 for this Sencut Serene. We've got a 3.5-inch drop point blade, full flat grind, appropriately thin right there. So this is a slicer through and through. And then of course the D2 is going to give you great edge retention, pretty much unbeatable in the under $50 price range. If you're looking for edge retention, D2 is a great place to look. The overall weight on this knife comes in about 3.4 ounces. It's heavier than that original XL because it's slightly bigger for one, and the aluminum is not pocketed on the inside either, but it still feels quite light indeed. Plenty of length for all four of my fingers, my slightly larger than average hands. The red looks great. A few different color combos are available on this knife right now. You have a reversible deep carry pocket clip. Flush screws, yes. Pocketed into the handle, no. And in terms of full deep carry, you do have a little bit sticking out, and if it's the red like this, it's going to be fairly visible. But let's get to the action. Is great. You've got the wrist flick that you want. You've got great flipping. You've got great thumbing, and you've got great reverse flicking. Get your minds out of the gutter. I wasn't going to say that thing. Yeah, it does everything that I would expect a Civivi made button lock to do quite nicely here as the Sencut brand. Man, that's a lot of knife for 46 bucks. It really is. 47. Next up, we have the Hogue EX-F01. New versions of these have been rolling out with a new texture on the G10 handles. You've got this kind of diamond hatched thing going on. There's a word for that pattern, and why can't I think of it?
Houndstooth?
No.
I'm out of ideas.
Thomas behind the camera, helpful as always. But no matter what you call them, they do give you a ton of grip. Not necessarily something I'd want to break down a ton of boxes with without wearing gloves, but that's not exactly what this knife is intended to do. Let's be quite honest. You're probably going to be wearing combat gloves if you're using this knife as it's intended anyway. Really nice. I mean, Hogue puts everything together really, really well, super precisely. That's no different right here. A couple different colors are available. A couple different blade lengths are available too. This is obviously Tanto profile. We've got a 5.5-inch blade and a roughly 7-inch blade version, joining the drop points, which have been around for a while. Very aggressive shape here. A2 steel, 5.5 inches long. I said that already. Man, that's about a 1/4 inch thick, actually. Yeah, very beefy, especially with that A2 right there. That's going to give you plenty of strength for more stressful situations where you might have to use a knife for things that knives don't usually do. What do they usually do? Well, cut things. What do they not usually do? Well, pry and hammer on things. And there's something to be said for a tactical knife being able to do that sort of thing should the emergency need arise. As for the sawback on this knife, it's not really a sharpened saw per se. It's not even really serrations per se, which it kind of looks like as well. You do have a flat top to these, but the edges or the interior corners of them, I should say, are pretty aggressive. So you can definitely do some like notching type of stuff with this, maybe even some wire breaking. That could be a potential use, but I'm not a tactical guy. And that is Thomas, so you tell me if you have some other uses there. Speaking of a tactical use, protruding tang with the spiky bit there at the end, and then a few lashing points if you needed to do something creative with those. My favorite part about this knife, however, is what they did with the sheath here. You'll notice on the handles, there's this indent on either side, and that is your retention point with the sheath, which is right here. It's injection molded, and you'll see these little levers right here. That's to make this a completely ambidextrous sheath. Works perfectly lefty or righty. There it is. Clicks in. Positive retention. You've got an extra strap here with a snap for even more of that retention, but when you're ready to draw, you simply push the tab out of the way and draw. Very, very cool. And if you're working from the other way, it works exactly the same. I love it. Very cool indeed. And I always like to see companies spend the appropriate amount of time on a sheath design too, as opposed to just, putting a solid yet unimaginative sheath on things. I'm not digging on anyone here. Don't try to twist my words and do anything there, but it's cool to see as much time spent on a sheath design as potentially on the knife itself. I like it. As for other attachment methods here at the back, or any attachment methods, because I haven't talked about any of them yet, you can use it belt style like so. You've got MOLLE compatibility built in too. And what's nice about the belt situation here is there's a couple ways to do it. You could work through the main section of loop right here, and with the snaps, that's going to make it easy to get on and off your belt when you want to. Or you could go through the second snap section here, which actually, does that even snap? It might be fixed. No, it does snap. Okay. In which case, you'd have to actually bust through 2 sets of snaps for it to accidentally come off. So you've got some extra stuff going on there. I dig it. Let's push this way just for kicks. Hey, it works. Next up, we have a smaller knife. Did I say the price on this one? I feel like I'm forgetting prices a lot today.
You might be. I'm not paying attention.
This Hogue right here, $216. And if you want the 7-inch version, it's only about 10 or so bucks more. Not too bad at all. Let's see, did I mention that? I mentioned that price. Oh, I don't think I said $50 on the CRKT. I don't think I said it there. I think I said it everywhere else. But here we have the Tops Papa Delta, priced at $113. And you might be wondering, why is the ring on the back interrupted? Well, the advantage of a ringed knife like a karambit or a small, backup knife such as this is it's hard to let go of when you have your finger in said ring. The disadvantage of said thing is also that it's hard to let go of. What you have going on with the Papa Delta is kind of a blend between those two options. You've still got the kind of retention, or enough retention that if you were to open your grip for whatever reason, the knife is still there with you. But if for some reason you were stuck and couldn't get your finger out this way, you could also pull it through that way. Not through all portions, and well, actually I was about to say that. Works across my fatty deposits here, that's fine too. Anyway, you take my meaning. The little blade itself feels just vicious. I mean, it's like a little toothy claw going on for you right there. 1.6 inches of edge or thereabouts, but it is doubled, of course. 1095 steel, classic Tops construction right there. And that Cerakote finish is going to keep that the rust away, of course, except on the edges itself, which are, of course, exposed. You've got a Kydex neck sheath right here. Make sure I get this right. There we go. Ready to rock with standard cordage and a emergency whistle. That's always like the freebie you get with pretty much every Tops knife out there. But it is ready to rock like so, right out of the box, or right out of the sleeve, I should say. There you go, Tops Papa Delta. Next up, we've got a new Skyraider. This is the SRK1 Mustang fixed blade. Here it is. Also with aluminum handles here. 305 for this one. The aluminum handles come with the Beskar pattern. You guys know what we're talking about there too. As for the rest of the knife, the handles are the same as some of their previous models, which was the Banshee, and there was another one. The Banshee was one of them, but handles are the same, which means also the scales are compatible. The steel itself is A2, and I'm really digging the blade shape on this one. Feels much more of a kind of everyday option than the previous knives that they have released. A2 tool steel, again, great toughness, non-stainless, but you do have the black coating right here. And check that edge out here. We'll show it from the edge. Look how thin that hollow grind goes. This thing is going to be a really nice little everyday cutter for sure. Love how thin that is behind the edge. Love how thin the edge itself is and how sharp it is. Very, very cool. One of the neat things that you don't see, or like some knife people out there will immediately go, hey, what's going on there? The plunge line is following the angle or following the curve of the handle here. And it's a curve that you don't usually see going in that direction. I'll show that Marfione again from the beginning as an example. Usually if you're using a belt grinder, you can get the curl to go this way, but getting a curl to go backwards and then forwards like this is really hard to do, if not impossible, with a belt grinder. I bet there's someone out there that could do it. But this is not a ground knife. This is actually a milled grind in the knife here. And that could be part of how they're getting so consistently thin. And that's definitely how you get this type of shape going on. And you can see some of the tooling marks through the coating as well. I don't mind that at all. I think it's just an interesting observation. Really dig that blade shape. Really useful as an everyday knife. Useful, of course, in some more tactical applications if you needed it. This has the feel of a karambit, even though you don't have a ring. The handle does anyway. The blade obviously doesn't feel like a karambit. But really aggressive jimping along the spine, which is proud of the handle scales a little bit. So you've got traction there, but it's that nice broad style so that that doesn't like feel like it's cutting you, but it gives you a lot of extra surface area to engage with for your grip. And I like the kind of pistol grip styling of it too. It brings the tip of the knife down a little bit, which even though you've got a full belly going on, means you can use that tip very, very nicely. As for the sheath, it is Kydex and clicks in quite nicely. And in the box comes with this nice little clip right here, which works on either side, of course. You can see right there. This would be great in the pocket if you want to devote that much pocket space to a device like this. You could, kick that clip up a little bit. It would also work great inside the waistband or just clipped to a belt. Last but not least, we've got a couple of Condor fixed blades. From the Mountaineer Trail series, we have the Spur, which is the clip point, and the Intent, which is the drop point blade. Otherwise, the handles, although the color is different, are the same. Pricing is also the same, about $93.50 right now. The blade is 2 3/4 of an inch long, and it is not 1075 or 1095. This is actually stainless, which we're seeing a bit more of in Condor's lineup, specifically of the Sandvik 14C28N that you've got right here. The handles are micarta, natural on this one, and it has the little section kind of scooped out to make room for the paracord wrap right in the middle, which gives you a little bit of extra grip to those handles. Lands right underneath my middle finger for my hand at least. It's got about a 3.5 finger grip. You've got that kick up there at the back that I was talking about earlier. You've even got a little section of protruding tang here at the back, which I should say the edge of it is crisp. So if you're going to use this as an outdoors knife, you could definitely strike a fire steel from that. But it would make a good little outdoors knife, either on its own as like a small hiker or as a backup to a larger blade. Would make a nice small hunting knife, especially this clip point version with plenty of belly. The drop point would as well too, though. I gotta say, you got enough belly there, and you've got the versatility of the dropped spine on that knife too, or on that blade shape too. Very nice little thing. The sheaths for the black micarta version, you've got black leather right there with a belt loop here on the back and pass-throughs here for other types or other directions of carry if you wish. And the natural micarta version has this nice brown leather. I really love the modeling on the back of that especially. All right, that's all I've got to show you this week. Let me know what you thought down in the comments. And of course, to get your hands on any of these, check out the links in the description to take you to KnifeCenter.com. While you're there, don't forget about our Knife Rewards program, because if you're going to buy one of these knives today, might as well earn some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, and that's Thomas behind the camera, and we're signing off. See you next time.